welcome to Pub Football with Miles and Jimmy. Jimmy's back, which is nice. So it's not just me sat here by myself after a relatively abject England display in the 0-0 draw with Scotland at Wembley on Friday night. We've had a couple of days to sort of digest the performance and come to some conclusions. And I guess we'll do our best to review it without getting too angry, because 4 points from 2 games, I guess you'd take that just sort of the other way around. If we'd drawn against Croatia then beat Scotland. But it was a very poor performance. I guess start with the starting lineup. Actually had no problems with the starting lineup on paper, and at first I thought that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, we were going to film this straight after the game, weren't we? Because you were very, very angry.
Yeah.
And giving it a couple of days, you do get a chance to just take stock of it. It was poor from start to finish, but 4 points, as you say, is a good start. And if we pick up another win against the Czechs, it's 7 points from 9, and that's decent. But the performance was really abject. We're really, really slow in possession, and we got what we deserved.
That was the problem. So going back to starting lineup, and I don't think you could have really had too many arguments. You couldn't drop Stones, and I didn't think Maguire should have started, and he didn't with Mings. I liked that he went with James and Shaw at fullback. I thought it gave us something a bit extra. We could go around the outside. In midfield, Rice has to play, and Phillips, you couldn't drop him after Croatia. I think you can now. We'll get into that in a second. And then Sterling scored the winner. Foden had played really well, and it's Harry Kane. So that lineup should have done a lot better. But the failings, I honestly believe the failings came from the centre of midfield, not moving the ball around quick enough.
Yeah, agreed. As you say, lineup, as you say, came out an hour before. We looked through it. Nothing wrong with it. We finally had fullbacks in the right positions. Sorry, Trippier. But yeah, we started okay. Obviously, Stones hit the post, but apart from that, we didn't really create anything, did we? And it was so slow in possession, and Scotland grew into the game. And they thoroughly deserved the point. Probably should have won the game. They had the better chances.
Do you think that will be the end of the Rice and Phillips partnership, or is it going to stay? Because for me, it should be the end of it. Because we should really, if you ask me, be treating ourselves like we're one of the best teams in this tournament and not always sitting and worrying about holding.
I've got a bold suggestion for the next game. I would like to change the system. Having watched Germany yesterday play 3-4-3, I think we could do that as well quite comfortably. With Reece James absolutely smashing it on the right side, probably Bukayo Saka on the left. And I think it could work because Robin Gosens had an absolute blinder yesterday.
Yeah.
And he just provides width, and it's something we're struggling with. We're struggling to get players high enough up the pitch to support Harry Kane. I saw a kind of touch map, and literally there was nothing in and around the box. And this is what we've got to do. We've got to get higher up the pitch. We've got to move the ball quicker. I think having sort of Grealish and Foden in and around Kane, I think could really, really make a difference.
The game convinced me that we should be playing Mount, Grealish and Foden. Absolutely. I thought Sterling was poor, really, really poor. He's been out of form. He wasn't running in behind. He wasn't creating space when he got the ball. He wasn't doing anything with it. He was the player who should have come off for Grealish, not Phil Foden, who, although maybe hadn't been quite clicking and product-wise, still looked a bit lively and looked like you could have made something happen. I was thinking that first change should have been made at half-time. I would have whipped Sterling off, would have put Grealish on. And yeah, I think it would have made a difference. I'm convinced. And I've been one of the people who thinks you can't play them all because you need players running in behind Kane, but that's not working. Teams are going to sit off us because they think we're threatening going forward. So I'd play them all. I'd play them all 100%.
Agreed. I think from both games it's proven Southgate's sort of substitution choices and times in game have been really, really poor so far. As you say, it was crying out for a change at half time. He left it for another 15, 20 minutes. And then he brought on Rashford, who for me has been out of form for Man United. Sancho's not even in the squad, who has set up goals, scored goals. Oh, he was, sorry. He wasn't for the first one, was he? But he would have been a good choice as well. I mean, he can create. And even with sort of 10 minutes ago, got 3 subs to make. And he didn't do anything. And it was more like we were just happy with a point because we've been so abject, which is not good enough.
I was going to get on to Southgate and his substitutions. Like we said, we've praised him that you couldn't really change that starting lineup, and fair enough. We felt like he went with the right team. He's come out to say put your frustrations towards me, vent towards me, not to the players, and I'm absolutely happy to do that because I think these substitutions were awful. Grealish, yes, right player to come on, should have happened earlier, should have been Sterling, so that you could have Foden coming in off one side, Grealish off the other, getting him on the ball. I don't even think the 20 minutes was long enough for him, especially with how slowly we were getting the ball. We were barely getting the ball to him, and at least he was trying to do something with it when he got it. Rashford for Kane made no sense whatsoever because Harry Kane, yes, I actually agree Harry Kane should have been subbed. I thought he was terrible. He had a bad game. And what I do appreciate is that Southgate is showing the bottle to sub Harry Kane off. It'd be so easy to be like, he's one of the best strikers in the world. We have to leave him on no matter what. But no problem with Kane coming off. What is the point in taking Dominic Calvert-Lewin? That's what he's there for. The game wasn't working. They were sitting back. They were deep. Why not have someone you can throw the ball into and have some players that have Mason Mount running off? And Mason Mount was excellent, buzzing all over the pitch. Also think that the way Phillips played, and he was all over the pitch as well, means that you could easily play Mount in that too with Rice and do a better job because he'd be better on the ball than Calvin Phillips. But yeah, I don't understand why Dominic Calvert-Lewin wasn't brought in. I don't understand why Jadon Sancho hasn't been used and wasn't brought on. It was screaming out for a player like him. Sterling got 90 minutes. He did nothing apart from try and win a penalty with a dive. Get Sancho on. Trust him. For me, Sancho and Grealish should both start against Czech Republic. We'll talk about that tomorrow. But yeah, I was really, really disappointed with the changes. And Phillips and Rice playing 90 minutes. Why? Why were those two players still on? Rice, I understand staying on. Phillips should have been pulled. 60 minutes. Get rid of him. Whether it's dropping Mount in and bringing on an attacking player, or if it's bringing on Jude Bellingham to have a bit more thrust in midfield. Why was he left on?
That's a strong rant there, so I'm not going to add too much onto that. All I'm going to say is, yeah, he's got big a selection dilemma for the next game, hasn't he? We've got to improve, got to be better. And I know Harry Kane's got a lot of stick over the last couple of days. I don't think it's his fault. I think the service to him has been poor. The lack of intensity in the passes into him has been poor, and it's not his fault. He will get better as competition goes forward, hopefully.
I mean, he didn't play well. His passing wasn't great. And I'm slightly biased when it comes to Harry Kane being a Tottenham fan, but I would not drop him. He's the player I wouldn't drop because there's something about Kane that he's had bad games for Spurs in the past where he'll have a couple of bad games and then the next game he'll score two. And
that's the thing. And I saw Shearer's, analysis that we're just not passing it quick enough into his feet. We're not getting him involved quick enough. We do that. He's good enough to turn. He's good enough to spray it out wide. He can do stuff like that. But he's just been wasted kind of 10 yards away from everyone else at the moment. And hopefully we get higher up the pitch and we start to look a bit more threatening.
Well, I watched Gary Neville's analysis. He has his YouTube channel, which I really, really like, the overlap. And he does five takeaways. And one of his takeaways was how we didn't switch the ball. Because he's saying the way to play against three at the back or a five is that you drag them into one side, then switch out to the fullback, because that should be on every time. And we didn't do it. And I was sort of thinking about it. I was thinking, do we even have the players in there to do it? Is that Declan Rice's game? I'm not sure long passing is his game. Phillips more so potentially, but in the centre-backs, I can't think of either of those two centre-backs being particularly competent in switching play. And that is actually something I hadn't thought about, but that could potentially be a problem. Harry Kane's very good at switching play, but he's not the player you want to be doing it.
Yeah, agreed. As you say, you'd look to someone like Calvin Phillips to be able to do that, but his performance a couple of nights ago was really, really poor, wasn't it? So he's, for me, coming out the side for the next one. But we do need someone in there who just does something a little bit different. If you pull Grealish deeper, I don't know, you pull Mount deeper, we need someone to just do something slightly different.
It's Mount deeper or it's Bellingham for me. I mean, Henderson's there as well, and he does pass the ball well over longer distances, but they're the two options. And yeah, I was just so angry after the draw because Scotland, and let's take nothing away from Scotland. Scotland played very well. Their key players stepped up. Billy Gilmour was fantastic. If I was Billy Gilmour now, after playing that well in a big game like that, coming back, first day back at pre-season training with Chelsea, I'd be banging on Thomas Tuchel's door and saying, right, what's happening with me this year? Am I going to get more of a chance to play in the midfield? Am I actually going to have a chance to take Jorginho's spot potentially? Because he's never going to get rid of Kante. And if not, I want to go on loan in the Premier League because I know I'm good enough to play at this level.
Yeah, agreed. As you say, Scotland were brilliant from start to finish, weren't they? I know they had a shaky sort of first 15, 20 minutes, but after that, grew into it, created a lot of chances. I've got to say, Che Adams looked pretty lively. And as you say, McGinn, who did you just mention, Billy Gilmore, even Simon Tominay at the back looked quite good. So all rounds.
First 20, and then after that, it was solid as rock.
It was, yeah, completely agree. And we just got overawed by the occasion, I think. And yeah, they grew into it, and yeah, they could have nicked it, and I'm pleased they didn't.
Yeah, well, do you think that a draw suits them? Do you think they can go and get a win against Croatia and qualify?
I think looking at how poor Croatia have been so far and the positivity they'll get from that result against England, they've got a really, really good chance. But I still think they get stuffed 3-0.
Are we already through? Is 4 points enough, even if we lost and we finished third?
I think it should be enough. But do you take the massive risk of making 6 or 7 changes, have a really abject performance, and end up losing?
I don't think that's a risk. I mean, we'll talk about this tomorrow, but you bring in Maguire because he has to play this one if he's going to play at all, and then I'd be changing definitely Phillips. I'd give 2 other wingers a chance. I'd maybe give Foden a rest for this one, bring him on. I'd be making at least 4 changes in this game, at least, and potentially you could look at the fullback slots. I actually thought that whilst I was happy with James and Shaw starting, I didn't feel like either of them took their opportunity at all. Looking at Luke Shaw's performance and how well he's done for Man United this season, I genuinely think Chilwell would have given us a bit more, and I would have called for Shaw to start as well. But I thought Shaw was way too safe. Every time he got the ball, he was playing backwards. Just, take a risk once every so often. We had the holding midfielder in there. We had players behind him who could cover that. I wanted to see him overlap, and there wasn't. That didn't happen enough.
I thought both were very, very conservative. You expect both of them to be bombing up and down that wing. Reece James especially putting in crosses. We barely saw that. He always came back. And that's what we want people to do something different. We want those crosses in the box. We want Kane on the end of them. And that's the thing. We're just too conservative at the moment. That needs to change.
Part of that was the slow passing. By the time the ball got to them, they were always had a man. They were never the ball was never being slid in for them to run onto and cross first time or take a touch and whip it. It was always getting to them with a man in front of them, and that is a problem. That we need to be better to work the space to create it, and that's what Gary Neville said. We weren't passing it quick enough. We weren't switching it quick enough. We weren't switching it well enough because I think the space was there. We just never exploited it. Very frustrating to watch.
Yeah, I'm not going to add much more, mate. Hopefully, better on Tuesday night.
We're at the football club with just a big group of men getting angrier and angrier as the game went on, and getting worse and worse language because as we've said, it wasn't very good. I guess that's all we want to say on that, and we're going to be a bit more positive tomorrow. We'll talk more about the lineup we'd like to see play against the Czech Republic, how we'd like to change it. I can already tell you it's going to be different because we're already picking different systems in our heads, as Jimmy mentioned before. But I guess there's 2 things to say, and we're going to keep on saying it. Come on, England, and cheers.
Come on, England.